I like getting your thoughts about the terrain, about the industry. I think this is what people want from this podcast a lot of the time is what's going on in sports media. There has been a lot of upheaval in NBA media, especially at ESPN. A little bit at The Ringer, which I don't think you can really get into because you're an employee of The Ringer, but more so ESPN. And we've been talking about it on this podcast. I got Tim Kawakami's perspective on the ouster of Zach Lowe. I want your thoughts on everything that's going on. I'll set it up for you. Adrian Wojnarowski, lead newsbreaker, surprise retires, gonna run St. Bonaventure's basketball team out of nowhere. Boom. Zach Lowe, surprise, fired. I should say laid off. I think he did a great job. Nobody disputes it, but too expensive. He's out. And now Shams Charania, after some rumors, some reporting on how Woj behind the scenes was trying to get maybe Jeff Passan from the MLB to take over his old job instead of his hated protege, his hated rival. Nope. ESPN brings Shams Charania in. He will be their NBA newsbreaker. Cheaper than Woj, still pretty expensive. What the hell is going on at this company?
I think because of the craziness that's happening with Disney, which is ESPN's parent company, like anything else, bro, like even whether you're Zach Lowe or Adrian Wojnarowski, like you're a freaking number. That's it. They have to pile up numbers to bring to the shareholders so that they can show the shareholders in Wall Street that they're taking things seriously, because that's how you show these freaking ghouls that you're being a serious person, is by firing folks. And I think, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, look, I've done no reporting on this, but the Woj thing always felt like more than just this guy's retiring. He probably got word that they were like, bro, we're moving on from you. We have to come up with a good number to show people that we're taking our, our waning audience and influence seriously, and we gotta fire people. And so Woj has a big ass number, and they were probably like, bro, we're not bringing you back, and it's just, you're just an accounting freaking error. Honestly, man, like that's how these people get looked at. Zach Lowe, by every single metric of our business, in terms of audience, in terms of the quality of work, it's unimpeachable. Like, he is a success at ESPN, but he made a big number, and so they just added his ass to the pile. And, Shams could come in, he's cheaper than Woj to do the exact same job. And, like, what I thought was hilarious about all of this shit, Ethan, was basically right after Woj steps down, the Karl Towns trade gets announced, which is just a huge NBA story. Yeah. Shams breaks it. We get the extra analysis from, guys like my guy John Krasinski, our former colleague at The Athletic, Fred Katz, all the other New York guys, Ian Begley, all these other guys that add color to the news. And life goes on. Nobody was like, damn, Woj would have brought something crazy. No, he wouldn't have.
I saw one tweet saying that from, I can't remember the tweeter exactly, and I was thinking, what are you even talking about? I can't recapitulate it, but it was, Woj would have something spicy about something involving Cat. I said, no, he wouldn't. That's CAA. He wouldn't. That's CAA. He would have broken it first, most likely, though I should say, in fairness to my former colleague, the great John Krasinski, there's a very good chance John would have broken that before Woj, but Woj would have been leader on the Vegas board to break it because it's a CAA guy to the CAA team. That's the Knicks. For those of you who do not know, Woj, represented by Creative Artists Agency, Cat, represented by Creative Artists Agency, and the New York Knicks, run by a former big shot at Creative Artists Agency. That's how a lot of this all goes. That's how the magician often does his trick. But to what you're saying was, it didn't matter. Who cares? Who cares?
At all. And the difference, by the way, the difference between that two, since we're talking about Woj and Zach Lowe, like, I missed Zach's analysis on that deal. The fact that I didn't get to hear Zach's analysis, that's somebody who I would have read and listened to after that deal got done. Immediately, he would have been one of the first people I wanted to hear from, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that's the difference to me, which is just like, it just shows you, like, even again, I gotta say this again, like, even somebody like Woj, like, bruh, like his retirement, the freaking hand wringing of everybody, oh, a giant of the game, and blah, blah, blah,
He
and oh
mentored
my
me.
God, and Woj and this, and he's such a pioneer, and he this, blah. Bruh, that big ass deal happened. Shams broke it. We got our analysis. We moved the hell on. We didn't need his ass at all. Like, bro, I'm watching Shams, the clip that's going around on Steven on First Take, where his very first take appearance, he breaks Danny Green's retirement. He's like, yo, and I even got a scoop for you. Breaking news, Danny Green is retired from the NBA. He's probably going to go into broadcasting, yada, yada, yada. This, that, and the third. It's like, it's seamless, Ethan. Like, there's nothing is like, this guy's a genius, a giant, and he casts such a large shadow. And bro, he's gone, and it does not matter. That's what I'm struck by.
That's why I have you on, is I'm trying to figure it all out, and I don't have it all figured out as to where we are and why. And I want to make this clear. I could not do what these newsbreakers do. In a way, I do have respect for the process, even if I don't, and I'm sorry to say, I'm sorry if it offends some of my former colleagues, I don't necessarily have respect for the product. I don't necessarily care about you telling me something that I'm just going to learn 10 seconds later or in a press conference. I just don't. I want what you want, which is Zach Lowe contextualizes it for me and gives me an opinion on what this all means. That's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. The informational aspect is going to come out any which way. So in a way, the people wringing hands, rending garments about Woj were correct in the sense that he is one of the most influential sports media members ever. He got so many people moving in this direction and making the business all about news breaking. At the same time, I don't know what that's worth. I don't know what we get from it. I don't know why we pay for it. I've analogized it to the Annie Hall joke where Woody Allen talks about the craziness of relationships in relation to the guy who says that his brother thinks he's a chicken and he wants him to break out of it, but he needs the eggs. You know, this sort of irrational, I need the product. I need to be first. Our company needs to have this person who breaks the news. I just don't understand the economic benefit. I don't understand why we're on this hamster wheel. I just don't get it, Waz.
So here's another thing, another part of just two things, couple of things. First, with the Zach Lowe piece, I know people are going to be listening to this like, oh my God, they're slurping Zach Lowe. Just to get it out the way, like I have a nice relationship with Zach Lowe. We're not like boys. We don't hang out like, you know, during Thanksgiving or something like that. But like I have a great relationship with him. I'm a big admirer of his work. I feel inspired by what he does, right? Like, and also what I'll say about Zach is like, I know for a fact when I'm reading and listening to him on his podcast, this guy is fucking excited about basketball. That's another thing. Like, this guy is a salesman of our game. Like, he is geeked about this shit. Like, that's another thing that I'm missing right now from this little hiatus he has to go on because of his contract situation. Like, ESPN basically paying him to go away. Like, there's something to what he's doing than, you know, Adrian's like, yeah, here's the news, blah, blah, blah. I can't say a single interesting thing about anybody CAA related because that's not how the news breaking business works. Like, you don't get to be interesting on those people and get the scoops. You either get the scoops and be completely like sanitized in your analysis of the job that these guys are doing, or you don't.
The trade.
That's the trade, right? And so I don't know why I need this when, one, this shit's coming out in a press release any freaking way from the team at some point. So I'm going to get this news no matter what. And two, like, the speed with it's just weird to me because so a buddy of mine who works in our business, but he works on the broadcast side, he doesn't really he texted me yesterday, and Schefter breaks, or it was like 2 days ago. Schefter breaks the Jets coach getting fired, Saleh getting fired, right? 3 minutes later, literally 3 minutes later, Diana Rossini, who's the Athletics, formerly of ESPN, but she's a newsbreaker in her own right, she tweets out, Mo Salah got fired per sources, right?
What you say? You called him Mo Salah, the soccer player?
Mo Salah, sorry, Robert
Bobby
Salah. Robert Salah got fired, comma, per sources. And he's like, what the fuck is that? Like, isn't her source the Schefter tweet just like the rest of us? And I'm like, you know what's funny? In the real world, if something important would have happened and somebody like some other reporter broke it, like a journalist who's covering that beat, their job is to actually go out and confirm it. Like in sports, like we know if Schefter tweets it, it's basically as good as gold. But like in the real world, that would be that person's job that was also on the beat. They'd have to go out and talk to people who they know and be like, is this true? And then they come out and be like, yo, that shit that Adam Schefter just said actually happened, is true, yada, 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 right? But in sports, I get it. And they're quote unquote in competition with each other to break this stuff. Schefter tweets it, that's good as gold. So basically he's like, bruh, 3 minutes later, why are you tweeting like your source is Adam Schefter, just like the rest of us? Like, why are you doing that? And I was like, look, the funny thing about that in terms of the attribution game, and obviously, Ethan, you're like definitely done more hardcore journalism than I have. Like, if Diana and Adam got texted by the same guy, which I'm pretty sure happened 3 minutes apart, like she has every right to be like, yo, per sources, even though I got it in a 3-minute interval afterwards. Like, there's nothing wrong with the tweet that she put out on her face. But you have to be devoid of the context that Schefter's tweet is as good as gold, right? And then like we think about, and I'm like, but to what end?
Well, I guess it's for that population of people that have her on alert but aren't checking for Schefter, which I guess that person does exist. But I wouldn't mind any of it if it was just this sort of silliness, and if it was just this sort of opportunity cost of I'm focused on this, so I'm not focused on that. It's the other part you mentioned that's the real problem to me, which is they stop saying anything interesting other than the raw information because they can't step on any toes, because they get it from the agents or the GMs or whatever. And it's not just CAA. I know CAA, that's prominent, but it's a range of relationships beyond that. Mark Bartelstein represents a lot of NBA players, and that's a big Woj guy. There are a bunch of agents, and that's part of why the analysis at ESPN, and I know people might go, oh, ESPN sucks, I don't like it, blah, 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 blah. I think there were some people who are great there. We can talk about them later. But I believe firmly that this is one of the reasons why analysis at ESPN, beyond a few readouts, got boring. And it's that problem that I cannot step on the toes of sources because my industry is all about news breaking. For what economic reason, I don't even know, but that became the lodestar for a decade. And therefore, I can't criticize this guy. I can't criticize that guy. I can't criticize this coach because they're represented by the same agencies. I can't criticize this GM. It's all just sort of floating around, and it's just going to be left to people on YouTube and at The Ringer where you can express opinion. But we're not going to do it anymore. And I don't think that serves the customer. I think people want to go on ESPN and actually get some opinions from somebody other than Stephen A. Smith, who just seems like he's too big to fail, and he'll just sort of be super opinionated, not always informed, but super opinionated. And it's that trade-off that I think has been the real problem. And that's the thing that I hope with the trade of Shams for Woj, I hope that changes and people can actually express how they feel about a lot of these things instead of being subservient to this ludicrous game that you're explaining where you've got to beat somebody by a few seconds.